Welcome to the Friends of Fantasy Benefits Baseball Podcast. I am Justin Mason, lead fantasy writer and analyst at friendsoffantasybenefits.com. Joining me on this Royals preview is Colby Olson of justbaseball.com. Colby, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Justin. Excited to chat about the Royals. It's a fun team for fantasy, so appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird team for fantasy. We'll get into it. It's got some real interesting pieces and then some not so interesting pieces. But before we do that, I want to give you a chance to kind of plug everything that you do. Remind everybody where you can be reached on social media and then plug your work.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can be reached on Twitter at Colby_Olson3. Pretty much any social medias you can find me there. I work for justbaseball.com. We can be found on Twitter at we had a whole thing with our Twitter account getting banned, and now we had to change our account, but something Just Baseball. If you look up Just Baseball, you can usually find us, Just Baseball fans on TikTok. But excited to announce that I'll be launching a fantasy baseball podcast in the new year called Just Fantasy Baseball. So this is a good, first podcast of the year kind of thing for me to get the fantasy juices rolling. But yeah, you can check us out there. And Justin, I'd love to have you on anytime. So we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to come on and chat with you and talk to your new listeners. So definitely go give Colby a follow. When that pod comes out, make sure you subscribe. Give him a 5-star review. Get him going. We talk about 5-star reviews being so important in the industry. Go give Colby his new podcast a 5-star review so that way he can get off on the right foot and get noticed. It's just a pleasure to chat with you today. Let's talk some Royals. What they do have in terms of elite talent is definitely behind the plate, right? They've got Melendez. They've got Sal Perez. They're expensive, though. Are you paying the price on these guys this year?
I think that was the perfect place to start here. I love Melendez. And to me, MJ right now at an average ADP of 99. You have Salvador Perez at an average ADP of 64. I'm taking MJ all the way. I obviously do have Perez ranked higher in my rankings. Anybody should. But he had a really, really strong debut last year. 18 home runs. He led the minor leagues in home runs in 2021. He hit 41. And he basically replicated what he did in the minor leagues at the major league level. He hit the ball hard, 43% hard hit rate. He replicated the walk and strikeout numbers. Obviously, on the surface, a 217 batting average doesn't look great, but a 237 X batting average, and he hit near 300 in 2021. I think, his steamer projections for right now are 236, 24 home runs, 76 runs, 63 ribbies, and 6 stolen bases from a catcher is pretty damn good. He's not going to play behind the dish all the time. He's going to play some outfield. He's going to play all around. So that only helps his case. Like a Dalton Varsho, he's going to be in the lineup almost every single day. I really like him. This is a guy that I want to leave my drafts with at ADP around 100. You might have to pay up a little bit more than that, maybe around 80, but yeah, I like him a lot.
Yeah, I think he's like the perfect two-catcher, even the perfect one-catcher, because, in a one-catcher league, you can wait quite a while on getting him and just swoop him up before kind of the last of the catchers go in your 10 teams and 12-team one-catcher leagues. But you're right. Like, what he does differently than a lot of other guys is he plays, right? He's got power, he's got speed, but he plays. He was 5th in Major League Baseball in terms of plate appearances for a catcher. Like, you're going to outscore people just based on that. I mean, it's a huge advantage. I love Sal Perez. I think he's a really great player. I'm not paying the price. I wasn't paying the price last year. Probably not going to pay the price this year. It's so hard for him to volume his way the way he did in 2021. And I think people are still overpaying for that. So as much as he's like you said, got him ranked really high, he's never going to end up on any of my teams.
Exactly. I mean, he still did have a solid year. I do wonder with him, he hit 48 home runs in 2021. He only had 24 last year. I wonder if there is kind of a juice ball factor because he did hit the ball hard last year. 49% hard hit rate is really good. And he did deal with that broken thumb, which is just a brutal injury for any hitter. So that's something to look out for as well. I mean, entering his age 32 season, I wonder if he can keep it going and stay healthy too.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about another kind of bright young star that they've got in Vinnie Pasquantino, if I'm saying that properly. I was not a believer in Vinnie P coming into last year
Justin.
and faded him pretty much everywhere when he came up in Fab. Like, I was like, I'm not paying this huge Fab prices for this guy. I was wrong. I mean, all this dude does is hit. Are you paying the price on Vinnie P this year?
I paid the price last year. I was one of his biggest supporters last year. I love everything that this guy does. I do have a fun little player A, player B thing here. So player A, 14% K rate, 186 ISO, 48% hard hit rate with a 10% barrel rate. Then player B is Vinnie P, 11% K rate, 155 ISO, 47% hard rate, and a 9% barrel rate. Player A is another first baseman and a future Hall of Famer in Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, I knew where that was going right there.
And you can, that is a cherry pick for sure. But it really does show that Vinnie Pasquantino has this unbelievable profile where he doesn't strike out. He has some crazy power that he didn't, fully activate last year in his rookie season. But this really is a guy that could hit 300, 20 to 25 home runs. And obviously he doesn't have the upside of a Freddie because he's in a Royals lineup, but he's going to hit fourth in this lineup, plenty of RBI opportunities. Right now, what his ADP is, around 100 as well, 93 ADP. Maybe a guy that you're going to have to pay up for a little bit more than that in sharper leagues. But man, I love this guy, especially in dynasty leagues. In dynasty leagues, this is a must grab for me as well.
Yeah, I mean, I love guys who've got amazing hit tools, and that's what he does. Like, I don't know that, especially with a little bit more dead and ball that we saw last year in the Royals Park, which is not great for power to begin with. I don't know how many home runs he's getting. I think the 20-25 sounds about right. I'm probably closer to 20. But when you've got a 92% zone contact rate as a rookie, give me that all day, because all he can do is get better. If he's going to make really, really good contact in the zone and not swing atrociously outside the zone, like, that is the kind of player I want, especially when we don't know, like, how the new rules are going to affect certain guys. Like, is the shift going to really help guys? If it's not. So give me baseline skills on a guy like Vinnie P. Yep. Yeah, I'm here for it. I missed out last year, not missing out this year.
He's a data darling for sure.
Absolutely. A guy who's probably a little less exciting is Nicky Lopez playing second base. He is multi-position eligible. He gets a little bit of cheap speed. Any chance he rebounds after kind of a disappointing 2022?
This is a guy that for me, I always am chasing upside. And for me, this guy doesn't really have it. The other guy I do want to talk about that does have upside is Mondesi, aside from Lopez, because Mondesi has all of the upside in the world at an ADP right now around 282. You're almost getting Mondesi for free, and just with the hope that maybe he plays 110, 120 games with bigger bases this year. Mondesi could steal 60 bags if he played a full season. I mean, it's crazy the upside that Mondesi has. So that's probably a player that I'm targeting over like a Nicky Lopez.
Yeah, I'm with you on Mondesi. Like, I have fallen for the Mondesi trick over and over and over again. I'm gonna fall for it this year because his ADP is so low. Like, it's too easy of a gamble, because at least this year, if it doesn't pan out, oh well. Like, you missed out on pick 250. You know what? I'll chalk that loss up. Like, it's a lot better than the third or fourth round pick, or even second round pick that you've seen in previous years. So yeah, Mondesi, I'm all here for that gamble. What about Bobby Witt Jr.? Bobby Witt Jr., another guy I faded last year. I wasn't willing to pay the price. Huge mistake. There's some people don't think he's a first round pick. He's obviously a first round pick, right?
This is a tough one. Last year he really did have a great rookie campaign. And he even did start pretty slow, but he still finished for me as the number 24 hitter overall. The approach and the power weren't necessarily there. But yeah, coming to this year, he's a 30-30 candidate that you hope takes some strides in the batting average department. He hit near 250 last year. If he can get that average up to 275, start hitting the ball a little bit harder, get the ball in the air a little bit more, walk a little bit more, just have a better approach all around. I know walks don't help in a standard 5x5, but it's just good to see a guy like that develop his approach a little bit more. He was 22 last year too. I think people forget that this guy is like almost a baby and already producing at an elite level. I don't know if I'm taking him over Mookie Betts, which is where he's actually currently slotted above ADP wise. But yeah, he's right there for me in that 8 to 12 range.
Yeah, I think he's got to be. I've already taken him in, I think, at least one draft, maybe even two. You get the third and shortstop eligibility, which is huge to be able to move him kind of quarter, middle, third to short. The power, I think, is fine, right? 20 home runs. You might even see some more, a little bit more power, especially if they liven up the ball, which, I assume that MLB always wants a more live ball. We saw it in the postseason, right? We saw it in New York. So why not see it league wide? Yeah, he's a legit 30-30 candidate. And I know that some people are going to fade him. I think that's a mistake. I think it's a huge mistake. I agree. I'd probably take Mookie Betts over him because Mookie is just so elite and so stable, and outfield is so terrible this year. But I'm picking in a draft tonight at 13. If Bobby Witt Jr. is there, I'm likely ending up with Bobby Witt Jr. on my team.
Yeah.
20-30 in rookie season.
I think people are a little scared because of last year with Bo Bichette tanking at that high, like top 5 value, right? But I think Bobby Witt has already proven that he can do it at age 22. Give me age 23, Bobby. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand people, they saw kind of the sophomore slump from Bichette, but we also have to remember Bichette was a different player in the second half. He looked like the legit player that he was. Sometimes players need to, adjust and then readjust, right? And it took Bichette a little bit longer. I think Witt's going to be okay. At least I hope so. All right, the last kind of guys on the infield. Do we care about them at all? Hunter Dozier, Nick Pratto, Michael Massey. I like these guys a little bit, but I don't even know if they're going to make the team. Dozier will, but the other two might not.
Yeah, Pratto's a guy for me that I would at least, have on your watch list. He probably will start in AAA. At least I hope he does. He hit 36 home runs in 2021. I remember, I mentioned Melendez at 41. Those 36 were second, tied with Griffin Conine in the minors that year. Pratto's interesting. I mean, he has all the power in the world. It's kind of a Bobby Dahlback profile where, if he makes contact, it's going a mile. The problem is that Pratto can't make contact with breaking balls. He had a 48% whiff rate on breaking balls last year. And it was kind of amazing that he got 57% fastballs last year. Guys were just still going at him, see if you can do anything with it. I think he gets attacked with breaking balls if he doesn't make an adjustment. But a guy with crazy power that, you at least got to have on your watch list.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely needs to work on the approach, right? He needs to be able to pick up a curveball, pick up a slider. He's just really, really struggled with off speed and breaking stuff. I liked Pratto coming up through the minor leagues, and it looked like he was on the cusp of being a legit impact player. And now he's been passed up by Vinnie P. I think he does need to go down. I'm not drafting him anywhere right now because you just don't know if and when he's going to be up. The nice thing is this Royals team is really thin, right? There's like you mentioned, there's some good players at the top, but we're about to move to the outfield right now, and there's not much there. Pratto can play the outfield, so I was shocked when I actually went through the depth chart of the Royals for kind of prep on this. I was like, where are the rest of their outfielders? They should have more than this. Right now they've got Edward Oliveras, they've got Drew Waters, Michael A. Taylor, and Kyle Isbel. All 4 guys I've really liked at points in the past. So this is a really interesting outfield. Are any of them on your target list?
I wouldn't say any of these guys are on my target list. I mean, I think the only fantasy viable guy right now is Oliveras. He had 286 with 4 home runs, 2 stolen bases in 51 games last year. I mean, it's a solid profile. It's a profile that absolutely nothing jumps off the page, but maybe as a streaming option, potentially, for a couple weeks when he's hot, something like that. I just don't see this outfield as a viable, any of these guys is viable, especially because they're going to be hitting, 6 through 9 in this order, right?
Yeah. I love all these guys, but I also hate the Royals. The Royals, they've got a bad home park. I don't trust their ownership. Look at their management. Look at what they've done to Edward Oliveras in the last few years. I mean, they actually had to institute a rule because of him, because he kept getting sent down to the minors and back to the majors, back to the minors, back. So they put a cap on how many times you can do that in the season to a minor leaguer because it was just unfair. I think he got sent down 11 times in that 2021 season. So is this finally the year? Oliveras has power. He's got speed. We know he can hit lefties. Will he get a full-time chance? It feels like this may be finally the year. So definitely going to take some dart throws on Oliveras. I love Drew Waters, but man, there's a lot of swing and miss in that game. There's also a lot of power in that game, and there's some speed in that game. I'll probably take some dart throws on Drew Waters as well, but make them calculated. Don't pair these guys, because they could end up platooning. They could end up losing their job completely, getting back in AAA. So I think in deeper formats, 15-team formats, take a calculated dart throw every once in a while, but don't go overboard because these are pretty easy guys who could just be nothing. Moving on into the starting pitching, man, I really thought they were like up and coming young pitching staff, and then they brought in Jordan Lyles and Ryan Yarbrough. They still have Brad Keller, Bris Bubic. Like, they blocked any sort of young talent they really had with these guys. Now, there's Brady Singer. We'll start with Brady Singer, right? Because I'm a huge Brady Singer guy. I know there are some concerns with him, but I think he's actually going way too low right now. What are your thoughts on Brady Singer?
Yeah, I mean, and Brady Singer, I do like because he's a very safe profile. He's got that same profile as Logan Webb, where he attacks sinker, slider. Sinker gets a ton of ground balls, 49% ground ball rate overall, gets a ton of weak contact. And then he has a pretty damn good slider, 33% whiff rate on that pitch. For me, his current ADP is around 200 right now, 190. It's such a safe pick for me where I know he's going to get a ton of innings. The games that he pitches will be the only games that the Royals are going to win. So for me, I like it. I like it. It is kind of that similar Logan Webb profile, and I love Logan Webb. So I like it.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, you got to love a guy who can still get strikeouts while getting love ground balls. And he also pitches in one of the best parks in baseball to pitch in, and a great division pitching. I know it's a more balanced schedule this year, but he's still going to get to face the Central more times than you're going to face anybody else. I love Brady Singer this year. I think he's really, really undervalued. He's already my most drafted player, or my most drafted pitcher thus far. He will continue to be. The rest of this rotation, like, I hate to say it, do we care about any of them?
No, I mean, all of their young talent, all of the young pitchers that they drafted have completely imploded. The one guy that I still hang on to, from the sidelines, that is Daniel Lynch. For some reason, I think Daniel Lynch has the tools to be a good pitcher, maybe, but he walks too many guys. He leaves pitches over the middle of the plate. But he's still young. He's 26. I think he's turning 27. There's still a chance for him to become a solid pitcher at the big league level. And he did show that in starts last year where he would strike out 8 or 9 guys over 5 or 6 innings. And you're like, whoa, is this it? And then the next outing he gets blown up, right? But it could be a good streaming option at times. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it is tough. Like, I don't care about Lyles. I don't care about Yarbrough. Brad Keller had, a hot start last year. I think I had him on my team at one point, but no, I really don't care about any of these guys.
Yeah, I want Daniel Lynch to be a thing. Like, I really, really want Daniel Lynch to be a thing. But the problem is the fastball is bad. Like, it is just a bad fastball. It gets hit all over the yard. If we start seeing a different pitch mix from Daniel Lynch, where he's throwing his secondaries more often than he's throwing his fastball, then I think we might have something with Lynch. It's still a good park. I think he's got good secondaries. I think he's got good control. I think his command is good enough. But that fastball, man, the fastball just gets murdered. But I agree with you. Like, Max Castillo is interesting to me, but now he's blocked. They brought in all these old guys to soak up these innings, and like, now you are not going to see, hey, can Jackson Kowar ever become anything? Can Max Castillo become something? Like, Daniel Lynch may end up not being in this rotation just because of the old guys they've brought in and the ones they've kept around. So like, I don't get what the Royals are doing. Personally.
Well, we didn't even bring up, and for good reason, Asa Lacy, who was their 4th overall pick.
Yeah.
His minor league numbers last year, and this isn't fantasy related, but just crazy to look at, 11.25 ERA, and he walked almost 13 per 9 in AA last year.
Yeah. This is one of the reasons why, for those of you who play Dynasty, I know I don't cover a lot of Dynasty, I never invest in rook or prospect pitching. I just don't. Like, I just don't. Because you just, like, this guy was drafted 4th overall, and now he was drafted a little bit higher, I think, so that he'd be signable, and because he was advanced kind of guy that would be up quickly. But he's not even on the 40 man. That's why I didn't even put him on the sheet. Like, just, I think at this point, like, he is very little value for the future in fantasy. They're not even willing to put him on the 40 man yet. All right. Let's finish out with a bullpen. Scott Barlow, he's kind of the unquestioned guy. If for some reason he were to lose a job or more likely than not be traded, is there a second guy up? Or where are you drafting Barlow this year?
Yeah, I like Barlow. He's being drafted right now, right around where David Bednar is being drafted. I really like any of those guys. It's not the best position to be in for Barlow because I'm not really sure how many games the Royals are going to win, especially with this pitching staff. Barlow's been great. Super consistent. Beyond that, I don't see much out of this bullpen that makes me think I need to have one of these guys even on my watch list. For me, you kind of got to go elsewhere. So draft Barlow with confidence. I think he's good for 25 to 30 saves. He had 24 last year. The underlying numbers are great. He's reliable.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's one of the safer guys. There is that outside chance that the Royals decide, like, at the trade deadline, hey, we're gonna move him, but by then you'll have soaked up 15 plus saves and probably be okay and go after the next guy. But at a position or in a category that is always volatile, I think Barlow is one of the few safe guys that you can kind of go, okay, he's got the job. I think Stallmont, if he ever gets right, or maybe Amir Garrett would be next up. But you could also see Amir Garrett get traded at the deadline too, because
that would be chaos.
Power lefty relievers are all often in high demand at the deadline. So I think Stallmont would be the guy I would handcuff if you're in a league deep enough where that makes sense.
If Amir Garrett is closing baseball games for the Kansas City Royals, everything has gone off the rails for that.
Yeah. He's got experience though, right? Like,
he does.
Like, I mean, I don't know who else even on this team. I guess Dylan
Coleman. The depth chart. Something Coleman. Dylan Coleman.
Dylan Coleman probably could do it. Yeah, man, it's just, God, that bullpen's bad too. So rotation's bad, bullpen's bad. This is why the Royals will not win a lot of games. Who will help you win games is Colby Olson of justbaseball.com. Definitely go check out the new podcast coming out in the new year when this will be released. So it's perfect timing. Go give them a follow on social media. Remind everybody where they can find you on social media and plug everything you got going on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Appreciate it, Justin. You can find me at Colby_Olson3. That's OLSON, not like the Olsen twins. But yeah, you can find all my work on justbaseball.com. Check out Just Baseball Media, Just Baseball Fans. Just look up Just Baseball and you can pretty much find us anywhere. But yeah, I'm just going to keep the MJ Melendez and Vinnie Pasquantino agenda going because these are two of my favorite players in the bigs and they happen to play for one of the worst teams. So it's a top-heavy team, and I think it's a fun fantasy team, but bad at the bottom.
Yeah, it is really bad at the bottom. I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with me. You can reach me on Twitter at Justin Mason, FWFB. Email me the show, friendsoffantasybenefits@gmail.com. Rate daily over at Fangraphs, doing 30 podcasts in 30 days. This is just number 3. So you'll be hearing a team preview with a different guest every single day this month in January. Give it a 5-star review. Go give Colby's new podcast a 5-star review as well. For Colby and myself, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic baseball offseason.